It is truly a great honor to have a guest considered to be a genuine visionary when it comes to federal contracting. I'm talking about this guy whose slogan reads, "Teaching everyday people how to win extraordinary contracts." This slogan becomes his mantra that guides all he does. Let me briefly introduce our guest in episode 2 of season 5 of Thriving in Construction, the podcast. After the real estate market crash in 2007, he launched a successful consulting company that aims to help small business owners earn millions in revenue through federal small business programs. And in 2012, he launched Govcon Construction, a steel erection company building airplane hangars and metal buildings for the government agencies around the country. In 2019, he launched his podcast, Govcon Giants, dedicated to showcasing the scalability of growing businesses. But don't take me wrong, Govcon Giants is not merely a podcast, but an organization that provides resources to help small business owners successfully grow their federal division. So without further ado, please help me welcome my friend, Mr. Eric Coffie, President of Govcon Construction and Govcon Giants, CEO. Eric.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I feel like we've been together for hours, so this is like a kind of awkward.
Yeah, we had a little bit of time.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy that you're here.
No, thank you.
And I'm actually more grateful to the fact that we have been able to catch up. It's been so long.
No, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. We've been seeing each other in passing, but we have not had a chance to sit down and talk and engage.
And I am so proud of the progress that you've made. I know, like many of us, life is challenging.
Yes,
we go through
absolutely.
stuff. But you do what we hear of people that have conquered so much. It's not about the failure. Failure is just a momentary event. It's just a result of something that helps us take a look at what is the pattern that we have been following and how do we bounce back.
Right.
I remember seeing you at the SBA. We always go back to that story,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Which is
yes.
incredible. You meet people that are like, how do you and I remember each other from that back then?
That's a good question. Because I don't remember very many people. Maybe you asked a lot of questions.
Probably.
That's probably, I think.
And what do you think did you think like, oh, here she goes again?
Yeah,
Or did you think she's smart? What do you think?
I thought that because, I'm a teacher at heart, so I thought that was really good for you to ask a lot of questions because I felt like a lot of people were afraid to ask. And so you were helping do that, which to me meant, like, as an individual, like, this person can be successful because they really want to learn this and they want to get it. Whereas some of the other folks, I think that they were there because their company sent them there. And so they weren't as attentive. They were just getting out of the office and then, like, charging the company for a day's work.
Yeah.
I saw the difference.
For me, you're bringing back memories. I know you were sitting back behind me.
Yes.
And for me, it was 2008.
Okay, wow.
No,
I can remember
2000. I got the 8A in 2009.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it was still tough.
Yeah.
And I had left my job, started in the garage. I was a single mom. So, wow, that was like everything. That moment meant everything. I had to make it. And in that meeting, people from SBA said, you can have the 8A, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get work.
They were realistic back then. Today, I don't think they're that realistic. They tell people, go get 8A, get 8A, get 8A, drive 8A. They just try to send people to the 8A programs. They're like over-promising them without telling them the reality of it. So that's good that they put that fear in you that drove you. I think that was a great thing.
I don't think the fear drove me, though. Determination did.
All right, determination.
To succeed. But back then, what happens to you? You were very eager. You started with your construction company.
Yeah.
What happened?
So at the time, I did not have my construction company. So I was actually going there to help support another contractor who you ended up ultimately working with, or he works for you, however you want to say it. There was two companies I was supporting. One was an air conditioning company. One was a painting company. And so they had the 8A program. And so for me, I was in real estate, okay? And then I'm from this area of South Florida. I grew up in Goulds. My family's in Goulds. And I went off to college. I became an engineer. Came back. I started doing real estate. Always been an entrepreneur. I started the Entrepreneurs Club at the University of Florida. So I founded the Entrepreneurs Club at the University of Florida. Came back. I started doing real estate sales. And then this very successful entrepreneur said, hey, you should consider becoming a developer. And that's how I became a construction. That's how I got my license. So this entrepreneur, who was an older gentleman in the community, said, come back to our communities and help build back the community. And that was very enticing for me. So I got my construction license, and then the market crashed, 07, 08. And that's how I'm like, okay, I ended up with a construction license. I didn't have a company, I just had a license. And then I met some guys that said, hey, you're a smart kid. If you learn this government contracts thing, we can make a lot of money. And so I was in a class on their behalf, learning it to help support them. So that's the story.
So what happens with the company that you ended up forming?
So what happened was, after supporting them for 2 years or trying, they did have a limited capacity where they were going, and I had to go out for my own. So yes, I had the corporation formed, but I didn't have any work. So at that time, about 2 years later is when I launched my own construction company and started doing projects. But I will say this, I'm very thankful for that experience because I was helping them get government contracts, and so I learned. And I always tell everyone that, anyone listening to this, there's nothing wrong with learning and supporting other people as you are working on, getting ready to work towards your dreams, helping build someone else's dream. That's going to give you the confidence, right, to believe like, hey, I can do this. And I think sometimes we need that.
Well, I always think that you're always learning. When I was growing up, my father thought I was never going to marry anybody because I used to study so much and I was so serious. Because of him, I was afraid. But, makeup classes and this kind of stuff and everything that you learn helps you at some point in life.
Absolutely.
I know you don't have to do makeup when you do a podcast, but I do.
No, that's okay.
Right?
Yeah,
so
I understand.
that teaches me.
It teaches me.
And it's true, the passion that you put in working for someone else is so important.
Yeah.
But taking back, let's say move forward 7 years.
Yeah.
I know you went through some
Right.
hardship,
Yeah.
and that is actually the reason why we're here today.
Right. So again, I started off in construction, and one thing that I did learn is in working for other people, I said, well, I don't want to just be a regular construction guy because that didn't give me a way in the door and when you're starting off. And so I said, I want to develop like my own niche to go into. I met this guy who told me about steel buildings, and he had built his career building steel buildings.
Metal buildings?
Metal buildings. So PMMB, pre-engineered metal buildings. And so that's actually where I started at, I had this older gentleman. Now that I've realized this, you keep hearing the same overarching theme. I always had mentors coming in and helping me at every stage.
Very important.
And so he helped me, and he said, look, I'll help you. And I became a licensed dealer for Seco Building Systems. And so my first project was I built the F-16 hangars at Homestead Air Force Base using a Seco building.
Were we working at the same time when I was there?
Yeah, I was working down there. I think I was working there before you, because you were working some other places.
I started working there in 2010.
We were there in 2010.
No, I was there. I was in South Carolina.
Yeah,
I was in Tampa. I was all over the place.
Yeah, you were all over. We were just there.
Good.
And that's why I left the company to work with these guys, because they didn't want to expand. And the SBA was saying, hey, you guys are not successful. They didn't want to hire engineers. They didn't want people. They just want them. I'm like, the program is a business development program, right? So you could grow and develop your business, and you guys weren't doing that. And that's why I had to leave, because I felt like I had much more to give to the world and they were holding me back. So I started doing pre-engineered metal buildings, started doing construction at the bases, grew my staff. I had 23 people working for me in a very short period of time, within like months. And then I kind of got cocky and I started doing some private work. And again, the offset of the 2008 crisis and 2012-11, some of the projects that were awarded in 08-09, those companies had taken it without any profit. And so they were looking to take advantage of contractors like myself and litigate us out so that they could make money. And so I was faced with several lawsuits simultaneously on my commercial projects. It was traumatizing, to say the least. These are huge companies, 200 million, 300 million companies, a whole staff of lawyers. They didn't care about dragging you out of court.
They put you out
of business. They could care
without
less.
any remorse.
Without any remorse. One of the guys said to me, because they put me in default before I even started this project. And when we finished it, he says, I'm surprised you finished. I didn't think you would make it this long. This is their vice president of this freaking $200 million company says he's surprised I even finished it, that I would even make it this long. And I refused to give up, and I fought all the way to the end. Again, some other mentors that has told me, hey, the only time you lose is when you quit. And so I just fought, stuck it out. I ended up beating, and this is important for anybody in construction. So I ended up beating one of my lawsuits because I was naive enough to call my insurance company to see if they would help me pay the lawsuit. And my naivety taught me that the insurance company says, because I wasn't sued at the time, I said, if a lawsuit is brought against you, we'll cover your attorney's fees. Well, just them covering my attorney's fees allowed me to not have to worry about that and continue to focus on the business. And so we fought back because it was the insurance company, and the insurance company handled the litigation side. We ended up beating them because they didn't have a case. So that was the issue. They looked to prey on people, on small businesses who can't fight back because they didn't pay you. You can't file a claim unless you finish the project. You know all these things. You can put a lien on them, but they can't force it unless you take them to court. So again, if you don't have any money, you can't do any of this stuff. So the insurance company stepped in, handled my legal fees. So it didn't matter if it's 6 months, 8 months, because now we weren't paying for it anymore. And they ended up, believe it or not, filing bankruptcy, couldn't pay their own lawyers, and we ended up settling it was a $700,000 lawsuit for $5,000. And I paid a $2,500 deductible.
But you know, at the end of the day, a lawsuit is no good.
No.
You don't even win if you win.
No, you don't win if you win.
And the problem with the small companies is just deters you from your day-to-day. You cannot have enough resources to focus on. It's such a negative energy. So I caution people, because now really I'm really trying everything I've learned to teach people, how to avoid it, just like you're doing.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, one thing that it's important, make sure you know who your ideal client is. Really, really do a good job at selecting, and don't be just getting work. Because getting work just to get work, especially in construction.
That's what happened.
Let me tell you.
So that's so interesting enough to bring it back.
That's like marrying a ton of people without you. The first person that you see, let me get married to that person.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So we'll bring it back full fold, the story. You're right. Through those experiences, one of my suppliers that I owed like $30,000, and he called me, and I spoke to him. I said, listen, I can't pay you. They didn't pay me. I don't have any money. I had to finish the project. And he says, when you started a business, obviously everyone was happy, just like the marriage part, right? It was, what did you like about it? I said, well, I never lost money with the government. And he goes, well, go back to that. And so that's how I ended up going back to government contracting and completely abandoning the commercial market, because this, again, another older person who didn't know me, and I owed him $30,000, which for me at the time was like everything. And I'm like, look, I can't pay my people. And so he encouraged me to go back to government contracting or federal contracting. And he promised he would never call me again about the $30,000. He didn't. He says, I'm going to deal with these people because they're bad people and I know what they do. And that's what brought me back around to the government contracting. And so within 6 months of going back to your ideal client, I learned that my ideal client was the federal government.
Absolutely.
And
especially when you are, when you're starting and you're doing from scratch like we did, right? The government has a program that allows someone, hopefully with the capacity, right? The technical capacity, at least, yes. Understand what they're, to grow.
Right. And
they pay you in 15 days.
That's
and there's a
so
journey,
critical.
right?
That is so critical.
It's so critical.
That's
because
so critical.
Construction is cash flow.
Cash flow.
Cash is king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
we've learned those lessons.
and let me and I really caution people to give merit to the projected expected profit on a project. You know, many times people estimate a project. Oh, I'm going to make $1 million on this job, but that's a theory.
Right.
It's not real until it's in the bank.
That's correct.
And so that's why your ideal client, it's like getting married. There's nothing, I cannot tell you anything better. It's like getting married, because on a project you cannot quit the job. You cannot abandon it, right?
Can't abandon it, no. So with that advice, I decided that I was just going to focus on government clients. And like I said, within 6 months of just focusing on government customers, I was able to pick up a small project. It was like $400,000 or $500,000 in Kansas to build a building.
With this company or
Eric Coffie? No, it's all me. I dealt with the losses. I dealt at that again. You know,
right.
I left those guys after 3 years. This was all me. I dealt with all it, but I didn't file bankruptcy and I didn't default on anything. So.
And then what happened?
So now what happened was I decided Eric Coffie was known for doing government contracts, but I thought I was cocky and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go do this work and do that work.
That's what happens.
You know, so I'm like, oh, the government stuff I got that covered, but I'm gonna go expand my business. I'm gonna go in these other markets that I really didn't know, and I didn't know the people, and they were strangers. But again, I went back to the government, and because of obviously my relationships I had built up, and I started telling people, hey, I'm back, and da da da. One of my former clients that I had supported was a tribal company that I helped out over here at Cape Canaveral. I built a little truck wash station for them. They picked up a sole source contract in McConnell Air Force Base in Kansas, Wichita, to build a flight simulator building, and I won that contract. We negotiated. I won that, and then from that contract, they were on a MAC over in Eglin, and they were doing a hospital renovation, and they invited us to participate in that, and we ended up winning that contract, which was the $5 million contract.
Always with the metal buildings.
Always with metal buildings.
I'm glad you had that niche.
Yeah, well, that's what made me attractive to people, because that was my niche. And even that one that I won with the hospital, it wasn't a metal building, but it was metal panels. But they couldn't find a supplier in the country to meet the government spec on the type of metal panels they needed. So again, I'm the metal building guy for them. So that, like, Eric, can you help us meet this spec for these very specific metal panels? We've called everyone in the country. They would not have won the $20 million renovation project because they couldn't meet the specs on the panels, because that was a part of the project.
And that brings me to another concept. Not only the ideal client, but what's your differentiator? What is it that you do really better than anybody else?
That was
key.
I became the number 5 guy in the country for Seco metal building systems.
But what happened? So how did you get to, why didn't you continue that?
So, interesting enough, that's a very good question. And that project, when I found the metal panels, I decided, this is important, I decided that, okay, I could do it with like my staff, or when I found the manufacturer, they had their own construction company that specialized in installing those panels. So I decided to use the manufacturer's installers. And so I subcontracted out the entire installation and they were a $30 million a year business. And by the way, there's only 2 companies in the whole country that makes these panels. But again, if you're not in that business, you don't know anybody. But because I had been in that business, I knew everyone in the metal building industry. I had supported them. So I decided, going back to your question, when I was going through the lawsuits a few years prior, I really felt that I was not living my full purpose. And I really, I had set out a goal many, many years when we both were doing the 8A stuff and the SBA stuff. It was so hard to get started. I always wanted to reach back and help people because I felt like the government could have supported us so much more, and that I didn't think they did a great job
at teaching
us this. And I went to PTAC and I went to the SBA, and the P-Tech that we had here in Broward, the lady, I remember the lady's office. It was like this big, like in a corner, and she gave me a bunch of literature and sent me on my way.
I used to go to the P-Tech in...
I remember someone told me that.
Yeah, I used to go to the
North
P-Tech
Florida.
in North Florida.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, you shouldn't be here. Your P-Tech is in Miami. And I would say, I just like this one. But so, I don't like to talk bad about anyone.
No, of course not.
So I just need you to help me. And that's what I would do.
So I realized back in, like you said, the 09, 08, or whatever it was, that the government, they had all these great programs, but they didn't have the right people teaching and training it. So when I won that project, and I had this big company doing all the work pretty much, and I just went to meetings and things, that's when I made a decision at that point of which path I wanted to take. And I said, okay, here's my fork in the road of life. I could continue doing these construction projects where I'm only as good as my last project and no one really cares about me, or I could start doing something meaningful and purposeful, which is with intention, which is giving back and helping people and sharing my journey. Because like even that tip with the insurance thing, if someone had told me that, it's like if someone, these are little things, right? See, these are they're so
distinctions, little
distinctions,
2 millimeter change.
That affects you in terms of millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
The other company, because I had a bond, they wouldn't let me use the insurance.
I'm going to interrupt you because that's a very, very important point. I so totally agree with you. I have learned that we, small businesses, we don't do enough of a good job at sharing that kind of stuff.
Right.
We think we learn something and we just want to keep it to ourselves. And there's so much in the universe. And from a place of abundance, sharing that can help somebody, and it supports you as well.
Think about this. You're already paying insurance, right? Now, we become afraid when a large person threatens us with litigation. If you know that your insurance that you already pay for covers litigation, you are free to be truthful and to defend yourself now, and not like have to curl up and then be at the mercy of these big guys. That gave me confidence. I was like, okay, screw these people, because I had all my documents. I didn't do anything wrong. But because they litigate you to death, and like you said,
it's a strategy.
It's a strategy.
They have a strategy to litigate you, make you so miserable that you don't finish, you abandon the job, and then they terminate you.
Right.
But that happened to me too, and I refused to leave. I finished the project, and they started doing this. I had a guy, a superintendent, that he practically had a heart attack because the stress that they put people through.
Yeah.
We finished. This is a big company. I'm not saying the name. And we were the largest DBE contract in Florida that year.
See?
And we were self-performing the shell. Same thing. And guess what? They didn't pay us. We had to sue them.
Yeah.
But in one of my accountants, you shouldn't sue them. You're going to lose everything. And I said to them, listen, I must rather, so you're telling me that I need to lay my body on US 1, I literally said this, and allow them, any cars to go through me. I'd rather die. This is wrong. This is totally wrong.
Yeah.
Thank God we won.
No.
But you're right.
No, I the only reason I couldn't sue is because I had a bond. And my bonding guy said, unless you can show you have this much money, because they were out of Georgia. The project was in Miami, so I had to have 2 attorneys for myself, and one in Georgia, one in Florida. And then the bonding guy says, you got to cover my representation because I'm the bonding guy. I'm not on your side. So you need 4 attorneys to litigate. If you don't, then I'm just going to settle. So I learned that distinction. And that's why now, like when I told you about the story today before we got on camera about my contracts, if someone wants to change where we're going to have litigation, I don't want the business. I don't want it. I'm not interested, because all the money they ever pay me, they can get it back by litigating with me, and I didn't make a penny, so I just work for free.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to a casino and throw my money in the casino slot than just give it to these people suffering.
Here's another distinction I have as a result of the years and experience. I don't want to work with everyone.
No.
I refuse to do that. And in the process, I love, for me, work is not work. I get to work. I enjoy what I do.
Sure.
But I want to have fun. And
Absolutely.
whoever I partner with, we have to have fun.
Absolutely. All right, so picking up where we left off, in between our session break, we were talking about like the forks in the road. And, now I have this project and, in addition to, going through the lawsuits and going through the things, I was also going through a personal divorce. And so, that added to more of the stress and something that I don't know if I share, but, when you have to put everything on the line, right? Especially in construction, you've got a bond. People don't know this, but your bond is tied to your houses, tied to your property, tied to everything.
We say it even your kids. Anything belongs to the bonding company.
Everything. And, when I was doing really well, I had invested some monies with people on some projects. I went in with this guy to buy an apartment complex, and I gave him like $40,000 down. And at the time when you're making money, that doesn't bother you, right? Like but then when you're tight and these deals haven't come through and nothing has happened, you're like, hey, it's been 8 months. I gave you this money, so we ended up having to move out of our house. Right, because now I really have to give all my money to my workers and employees to keep the jobs going. So we end up moving out of our house in Palmetto Bay, and then we're going through this divorce, and then like these people who you gave this money to do these projects, like none of this stuff came through, and believe it or not, and my son, he's here, he'll tell you, we were working at this building down in Florida City, and we had to share a salad. That's how low we got. We got to the point where we had to split up a salad. We couldn't even afford to go and buy 2 salads because we didn't have any more money. And I had no money, and we shared a salad. And we were working on this building with our hands.
But you were healthy though. You could have shared a hamburger.
Well, yes, obviously.
I mean, you were a fancy poor person.
That's true.
Hey.
Well, that's how we eat. I mean, I was a healthy person. I mean, we're not healthy. Just because I was poor. I was still, she's gonna turn it around on me. Like, you could have been sharing a hamburger, 99 cents. You split that up. We ate a salad, right? It was a salad though, because we healthy. I gotta take care of myself. I'm gonna live a long time, even though I was poor.
Yeah.
I was still,
I'm with you.
So but yeah, we face a lot. I mean, all those things. But I do remember even talking to him and saying, hey, look. I mean, we are living at the bottom, so great things must be in store for us because we are at the bottom. We're down here in this stupid apartment complex that I gave the guy the money to buy the deal, and he let it go, and now we're trying to save it out of bankruptcy protection, and I'm fixing it up. It was boarded up. We're installing windows, moving in people to get rents in there to generate money to save it from the bank taking it. So this is before South Florida became really popular, right? Remember this after 2008 market crash. No one wanted anything in Florida City. No one wanted anything in Miami. So again, I was going through a lot, and I got to the point where I moved into an efficiency right here and in the Falls. And so I moved to efficiency, and I was living this efficiency. And believe it or not, that's when I wrote this book.
Really?
Yeah. Because I felt like construction wasn't going to be my pathway because I was getting beat up at so many turns. I hated waking up. I was terrified because I was like, which debt collector is going to call me? And so I ended up moving in efficiency. And I remember being on the back patio because it's a big, huge backyard. And I start working on my book. And I just start writing to kind of like take away from like my real world. And I start writing my first book. So.
Isn't that incredible how, I want to say, the good Lord, I mean, people, whoever your divine, your God is, sometimes we have to, the way I say it is that you have to be peel off of any distractions that are really not material to the essence of who you are.
Sure.
And surrender.
Right.
Get to a point of surrender.
Right.
This is, I think, where all the gifts comes.
Absolutely.
For us. Because in my lowest is really where I have created the most. And I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I also know that you've been such an example to your son.
Thank you.
Which is one part that I really admire of you. Because it's really, that's one of the first purposes we have in life is the people that we bring to this world.
Right. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So the book is called?
So my first book is The $1 Billion Playbook. And it's interesting. It went through several iterations of names. And I learned this, and this is important for people to, and this goes back to our marketing stuff. I had this really long title because I'm an engineer, and my guy, when I had an office here in these warehouses in Goulds, this guy goes, "What is that book called? How to do this and this and that and this?" He goes, "No one would ever read that book." He's like, "Man," he's like, "No one's gonna ever open that book." He said, "Make the title more attractive, even if the content inside is the same." And Robert Kiyosaki said, "Do you want to be the best written author or the best selling author?" And I said, okay, let me change it, because we are talking about the government contract market, which is $1 billion market. And we're giving you websites to help you navigate, because as you know, if you don't know what to Google, you're not going to find it. Like you can Google, market research for the government. That doesn't lead you anywhere. Like, what happens when you don't know what to Google? So the first book was really a lot of the websites that I was using on a regular basis as part of growing my government contract business. Things like FPDS, USA Spending, free places, free sites. One of the things that I've learned along my whole journey is, again, there's so much stuff out there, like programs, and the government has so many excellent vehicles to help support us entrepreneurs and small businesses, minority businesses, but you just don't know where they're at, and you don't know how to find it. And there's so many people who want to take your money to tell you parts of the information, not even the whole show. And so I just decided, look, these are all the websites that I use. How do you find a forecast list for GSA projects? How do you find a forecast list? Acquisition planning, contract administration. Like, how do you even know what is FPDS? Think about it, right? Like, you know FPDS.
And all the acronyms.
Yeah. So it was like, look, I didn't want to replicate what the websites do. I wanted to say where they were at and how I use them. And so this first book was essentially like, again, peepers. You know peepers, does anybody else know peepers? No. Does anybody know one knows peepers, right? So they say that very casually, and we forget to acknowledge that someone learning this is like, what is peepers? And so for me, I decided, like, okay, let me show you where all these free tools are and the free stuff, depending upon where you're at in your journey. So
Is that my book?
Yes, I'm going to sign it first. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You better give me one.
So like registration sites, right? I mean, again, we know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Small business assistant program sites, right? And so these
it's basic stuff, but not basic for the person that is starting.
Right. So again, 72 websites for massive scaling within the marketplace. And these are places that you can go to for free that, again, you just don't even know to Google them because you don't know what you're Googling. You know, procurement, technical assistance centers, small business development centers, women business centers. Did you know how many times on YouTube people don't even know about women business centers? See? People don't know there's veteran business centers to help veterans. There's all these places that you can go to get free help, but you don't know how would you know to look for it?
You don't know that it's there.
You don't even know it's there.
And the grants, that's important.
Right, the grant site. So again, National 8A associations that you could be a part of to learn about these different programs. And then things that I've done on the side, like for example, we use Guru for stuff. We use Upwork. We use Virtual Staff Finder. Even when I do like editing my PDF documents, and again, when you don't have money, you look for free stuff. PDF Escape is a great free place to edit PDF documents that you just could use with a Gmail to sign in.
That's a small distinction, but it can mean big dollars for some people.
It adds
and
up.
Progress.
Every single company now is going to a SaaS model where they're charging monthly for all this stuff.
Yeah.
As a small business, you need to save every nickel, every dime, every quarter you can.
Yeah, but you know, Eric, I also caution people because it brought me back memories of us trying to accelerate the process in getting into the government. And there's people out there that offer stuff. Look, I had a situation, my first theft. They were announced in a conference. You would never have seen that somebody in a booth would do this. And let me tell you, they promise you this, take your credit card, and they charge your credit card for something that you didn't even buy. And then to find these people and get that money back, let me tell you, I caution people.
Oh.
Nothing that it's like, and it wasn't $2.
All right, right.
And so there's people out there that are good and they're like you, And some people.
That's why I said here's
not.
a free places and low cost places to start that are proven, that are vetted. These are national organizations.
Yeah.
No one knows about minority versus supplier councils. Look, how would you know what NICO is? DIBS. Where are you supposed to get all this information?
No. I
so
got
this,
that. Actually,
and it's $10.
Go through this.
It's $10. It's like, okay, for the price of McDonald's, go back to a hamburger. Nowadays, it was $10. No, I haven't eaten McDonald's in a long time. But again, Ostabu business, like all these places that I use. Sammy, I know you're in Sammy.
Yeah,
of course.
but
how would someone that didn't know what Sammy was?
Yeah.
Where you see a commercial on TV that says Sammy?
No, it's awesome. If you save time, it saves people time.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to save you time. Yeah. So again, that's what was my first book that I wrote during that time of crisis. And then.
So you go, and then that actually, how do you get the idea of to start adding content in YouTube and adding value?
So on this project, I knew I was going to make a lot of money. Well, a lot of money for me at the time. And I knew that I didn't have to really work for 40 hours a week. I had a couple choices. One is I've got my goals list, right? And one of my goals was travel the world. And I said, okay, I could go to China for like 6 months. I could go to Argentina. I really like Argentina. And Chile was on my list, by the way. Like I was thinking about Chile in 3 months because Chile is the opposite seasons. And they have beaches, and they have mountains and the ice and snow. So I was like, okay, go to Chile for 3 months. And I did all my research. And then I said, well, or I could do what I always said I was going to do, was help people. So I decided to help people. I said, this is my time in life. There's no better time than I have than to start making content. And I decided to make my YouTube channel. And that was 2017.
That's pretty courageous because a lot of times people are afraid to put themselves out there. Mm-hmm. How do you overcome that mental barrier?
So it's interesting. I was living in Miami downtown, right? Right outside of Bayside. So I'm looking at all the ships, the cruises. So I was on the 24th floor. And I remember making my first video and I was terrified. And I actually had to take a couple shots to make my first video. I was super nervous and I was in a place by myself and I just had a camera and I scripted out, I wrote everything down. I don't know. I was just really nervous.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not a person that puts himself out there. Believe it or not.
Let me tell you that
I'm an engineer.
Me too. I'm an engineer, but let me tell you, ever since I decided kind of going through the same path that you went through, I wanted to give. What am I going to do with this 30 plus years of experience? I cannot take that to my grave. I have to put it out there. It's like I'm exploding with so much knowledge and experience.
Sure.
So I am trying to do a video. This is so funny. And I'm like, and I tell my daughter, because kids, they're amazing at that.
Right.
But I'm looking at, I am really good at talking to people. I can even talk to, multitude. I speak on stages.
Right.
But to the camera
knows.
to this
I don't know. It's terrible.
This thing doesn't reply back to me. I don't know what the eyes are doing. I don't know.
Right.
But today I see you, and you're like, this one, and 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 this one. You have totally overcome that. Right?
I've totally overcome it. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
No. Now I go YouTube live and I just talk. No script, no nothing. I just hit start and I go. And
you're amazing.
I became very comfortable making mistakes.
Well, they're hard, yes. But also, you're coming from your desire to give.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And when that's
the other thing that I've learned that I'll share with you that since I started doing this in 2017 full time was that. And this, I'll thank my ex-wife because she said this to me. I was afraid. She says, listen, she was going to like nursing school, one of these things, and she was watching people's videos. And she says, listen, they have babies in the background crying, and we still watch it. So you can't be worse than that. And I was like, okay, you're right. Like I listened. I was like, people really do have animals barking and babies crying. I was like, no. But I did say this because I am methodical. I learned. They said, if you want to grow your channel, your content, do not try to edit your own videos. So from the beginning, I outsourced all of the editing and post-production. I just want to focus on making content.
Of course.
That was something, but most people, for saving money and those kind of reasons, or learning, because they think you have to learn all of it, they want to learn the whole process. and that would have slowed down my growth.
Of course, because now you're criticizing yourself, and
Yeah.
and that's not where you're amazing at. You're amazing at creating. You're an artist,
Right? Yes.
right? So okay, so now you have grown your YouTube channel. Now you start your podcast. I remember being in your podcast back then, and I remember a podcast. What is a podcast? And now here I am with a podcast. This is so I owe you that one.
Thank you.
And I remember even seeing you at
Do I get a check for that?
the.
Do I get a check?
Yeah, you will.
We can leave her with a check
You will.
today?
I'm gonna cook for you.
I mean, we got a nonprofit. You know, you got a nonprofit a check.
I do.
We have a nonprofit. You can write us a donation.
I can do that.
You know, you can sponsor a
You
student.
know what I do want is that you help me find these foster kids.
Oh, I'm going to do that.
Because we have a foundation also to train people into construction. You know, give someone an opportunity, somebody that doesn't have it. In our industry, it's so much. You know,
I'm gonna bring my sister.
Yeah, and I think that there's
let you guys meet.
I really believe we're gonna be collaborating. This is.
Yeah, my sister is, like I said, she's on a board. She loves foster kids. That's her passion. She would like to work on projects where people were helping develop like group homes and just like buy a building, develop it out just for foster kids.
Tell me more about the foundation.
Our foundation, our nonprofit. Yeah, so what we did again, we started creating content online, and I just started off from my heart, just sharing my experiences, and people just kept telling me to keep going. And then I moved away from the big city, moved into the country in the woods, like any artist would. I looked at myself as an artist, and I just made video after video after video after video, and I just started making a bunch of content. And I did that for about 3 years, and I took my channel from 0 and nothing to 27,000 subscribers, and then I grew my podcast, and now we do about 60,000 views a month. 20,000 unique viewers a month, and we only talk about federal contracting. There's no dogs, cats, and there's no funny videos. We have one rap song which my son wrote, but other than that, there's no entertainment purposes. It's strictly federal government contracting, federal procurement law.
So this has been
nothing political. We don't talk about any political stuff.
This has been like a 7-year journey, right?
Since 2017. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess 7 years.
7-year journey. And let me ask you.
Wait, no, it's 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
2016 or 17?
17 is my first 4 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So would you say that without those challenges that you had, you would not have started the YouTube?
No.
You wouldn't be here today.
That's correct.
Right?
Right. So I actually, believe it or not, I was at WeBank. You know WeBank? So WeBank is...
I'm certified with them.
I'm sure. But for the people that don't know what WeBank is, it's the largest organization that supports women business owners. And so I was there, and I spoke to someone at the company where the lawsuit went down. And I told the lady the story, and I told her it was a happy ending. And so that was my happy ending, that they did force me to change paths and then come to do this.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fulfilling, so much more rewarding.
And you know what? A concept I learned, a lot of times we have, nothing is 100% absolute, right? And we tend to delete and distort or generalize, right? We have a situation and we stay with that thought, and nothing is absolutely bad or absolutely good. You know, there's always both. And it's important to effectively blame the people that we say hurt us or the situations, because you also want to blame them for the good, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. No, I would not be here, no. And I'll tell you that the challenges I've had, the same. Right. It's amazing. If you had to start your company again, what would you do different?
A construction company? Mm-hmm. What I would do differently is I really would learn about all of the different programs that exist, because what I see so now as the YouTube guy and a podcaster, I get a chance to mentor and coach thousands of small businesses. And what I see is that not enough people know about their business. When I started real estate, there's so much training that you could do in real estate. I didn't find that for construction. I didn't find, where's the training programs for how to run a successful construction company? What CRM should I have? How do we should manage contracts? What bid system should I be using? All of these things that you need. How do you estimate? I remember going around and asking people how to estimate projects. And, one of my mentors that was helping us on the construction side, he goes, I do my own estimates. That doesn't teach me anything. How does that teach me if you do your own estimates? how do I learn how to read plans or blueprints or specifications or like all these things, these facets of construction that you have to know. I didn't go through any training curriculums for this stuff. And if I had to start over, like with the YouTube, when I started my YouTube channel, when I started my podcast, I specifically hired someone to run the podcast, and I put her through training before we ever did an episode. But I did not do that in my construction business. But when it came to a podcast, we paid for a coach, we paid for a mentor, went through coursework, we studied and learned about the podcast business from A to Z, and before we ever did one episode. And
really?
Oh yeah, we did that first. We went through an actual podcast course. And not only did we go through a podcast course, we went to a podcast conference, and we actually learned. We went again. Then we met all these different vendors that had different products to support the podcast industry. So we knew the CRM to get, we knew the idea like to make my free course, we knew to capture the email. So we knew all that stuff before we ever started.
That's amazing.
And that's what we did. And then, so again, for me, if I were to start now, anything that
you
I
were serious about this stuff. You were very strategic and serious. You knew what you were doing. It wasn't an accident.
No, it wasn't. No, I mean, again, I always wanted to give back. I just didn't know how to do it. And by the way, I was serious because what I wanted to do was for me on the YouTube channel was me talking from my experience, but the podcast was getting people like you, getting their experiences. Because again, I was like, people are probably tired of hearing from me. So let me just grab some other experiences. And these are all things that I wish I had when I was starting my business in government contracts. Like I wanted to be able to learn from people like yourself. What did you do? What were your experiences? And so I just created it because it didn't exist.
Yeah, and I think
not for free, at least. Somebody charged for it, but it wasn't for free.
And I'm in the same page. And growing a company to a construction company to the 20 million and so on. How do you get there? And you lose a lot of money trying to figure it out.
Yes. Yeah, and I lost a lot of money trying to figure this stuff out. Even the marketing, like I was saying, we could pay people to do stuff, but then they don't do it right, and they make mistakes. And I kept my video editor for my YouTube channel. I mean, we're still work together, but in limited capacity. But I had the same guy from Eastern Europe that did not speak English that edited all of my YouTube videos for 3 years.
And that's the other part, that when you find when we collaborate, and I find someone good and we're able to talk, we can reference these people that we know work.
Right.
There's a lot of people that they promise stuff, but they don't deliver.
Correct.
A lot.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, we know. Trust me.
Anyways.
That's where I get at. So I did the YouTube, I did the podcast, and we just.
When does when do you become pregnant for the second book?
So interesting enough.
It's a pregnancy.
It is a pregnancy.
How long did it take?
2 years.
Okay, so is this
so one of the things that I looked at because and I taught my son this. I don't like to compare myself to a specific group. So for example, you're a woman, I don't want to say I want to be the best woman, right? I want to be the best person in this industry. So for me, I go, okay, I want to be the best in my industry. What do the best people do? And I noticed that all the best persons had 4 books. So I go, I have to come up with 4 books. So I knew as a strategy that to be the best, right, to dominate your space, I'm like, okay, all the best people, like you were in Tony Robbins programs, he has like 10 books now, but 4 puts you at like the GOAT level, right? So now you're the GOAT in your industry and like no one can touch you. So I knew I had to come up with 4 books. So I actually wrote out the concept for 4 books at that time. And because I was like, okay, I got the YouTube, I've got the podcast, that's great. I'm creating separation between people. And then I go, I got to work on 4 books. And I just wrote out the ideas. And then I started working on the second book, which is more of, okay, what's my actual story, my journey? Because I'm a reader, and I like reading. And so for me, yes, people had it on YouTube, but that wasn't like one place that you can go on. Like, okay, now you have 500. Because as you build more YouTube videos, you know what happens? People go, oh my gosh, you have all these videos. I don't know where to start. Can you just make a course and put them together in order, and we'll buy the course? Yeah. And that's how we started with the course, was that everything that I've ever done, people ask me to do it. So it's never like, oh, I got this great idea, let me do this. So like, hey, can you put it together? So it's the same thing with the book. So the book really does complement my videos because it walks you through my journey, start to finish. And as you see, the first name of praise, Maria Martinez is for helping me. But again, all the people that were part of this and reviewed the book, and even some of my people that went through the lawsuit. But again, a complete guide to launch your government contracting business. And this is exactly what I did. And I share the story about working with the AC company, working with a painting company. And then we discuss, first I define the opportunity, part two, how to do it, making money, right? And then we start going into what does that look like. And so now I pulled in some episodes from my podcast cast, like this is an intro. Don't be afraid to think really big and just have faith. Being a business owner is really, really hard, but if this is what you're meant to do, the right people, the right opportunities, they will come along. And sometimes you'll think something really big is going to happen. It doesn't, and it's disappointing. But I say it's because something else will. Isn't that what we talked about?
Amen. Yes.
Isn't that what we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it is. And a lot of times, the worse the situation you're going through, the bigger the blessing that is in store for you.
And so, for example, for me, I call the government an evergreen customer. So when you're making content, evergreen means it's forever, right? It doesn't matter if you say, hey, talk about this motivation. It doesn't matter if it's 21, 2017, 2030, it's still the same. And so for me, the government was an evergreen customer because they're always going to be there. Whereas some of your commercial clients come and go, right? Some of those people come and go. And then we just went through and I worked through the book.
Awesome.
And that released that one. So
I love it. And what's the next book?
So the next book, I'm actually doing 2 books simultaneously now because I got so bogged up with coursework. The third book is called Ask Eric. And what I did was, now that I'm on YouTube for 5 years and I've got all of these emails, thousands of people over the years, I had a team of people who basically take all those questions and put them on an Excel spreadsheet, and now I'm looking at what are the most common asked questions that people have asked me over the last 5 years, and then we're going to be answering those questions in the book format, and then structuring it based on categories. So for example, we just took whatever, like there's certain questions that in 5 years it was asked 50 times, and then we're going to answer those questions, and that's in my third book called Ask Eric.
Awesome.
And then the fourth book, and again, I don't know if you responded to this, is a survey from all of my podcast guests where we're going to be taking their stories and their journeys, and then like what we did here is showing what are the similarity traits between successful people in this space, particularly in government contracting. So again, when we look at all of my podcast guests that we've had over the last 4 years of being on a podcast, and we've got your stories in collaboration. We then sent out a separate survey asking you, there's like 12 distinct questions. And one of them was like, hey, maybe a famous quote that you had, maybe a book that changed your life, maybe something that you live by, some sort of saying. And so we're going to take that and we're putting it into a book format where we essentially show what are the successful traits and habits of small business federal contractors in particular. Because I've read, if you think about Chicken Soup for the Soul, where they're getting those stories, I've looked at books on, when you look at like famous authors and what were their traits and habits. So again, if you want to be an author, well, you want to model that. So there's the same thing for this. That's my fourth book.
Yeah, that's awesome. I see many, many more books.
We have an action journal that we created that I journal a lot on everything, and you probably do. You've got one in front of you, right? So there you go. So we have an actual journal that we created that will complement like the Govcon launch book, and then we have a total smart planner, which is more blank pages, but it's guided in a sense that every month there's an activity, every quarter there's an activity that you go along as you're journaling.
That's awesome. And gratitude, right?
Gratitude. No, gratitude. Absolutely. No, it's. At the bottom of it, there's different gratitudes.
So I'm going to close with this question, which I want to know, what are the rituals that you have every single day to put you in the best state so that you can deliver, from the soul, what's more from the heart, that you are guided, that you're in flow, the best days that what is it that you do every day to put you in that place?
For me, like I said, when I was really intentional about starting my channel and giving back, and I've always had a goal to help millions of people and small businesses, and I haven't looked at it in a while, so I'm not sure what the number was, but I know it wasn't like millions. It was, I can tell you that.
Million.
But let me tell you though. Well, my goal in terms of now, my coaching and my training is we're calling it 500 to 5 million. So we want to help 500 small businesses get to 5 million revenues. It used to be 200, which would take you to $1 billion in sales, but we bumped it to 500, just because 200 just became too attainable now because we've done so much work and good. So 200 just became too realistic now for us. So we pushed it to 500.
Has to be a big audacious goal.
Yeah, it had to be right. Exactly right. There you go. So BHAG. Look at you. We're not supposed to say it, so they don't want to BHAGs, okay? You know about BHAGs. So yeah.
Look at you.
I see you. But no, so for me, when I was very intentional in doing that, so what puts me into the mind is that I literally, just because now we have so many people giving feedback on my content, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, and I'm reading the comments from people, and I'm answering, responding to them. My son will tell you, and I really respond to hundreds of comments probably every week. But it's obviously over the years it's been thousands and tens of thousands of comments. So that really keeps me motivated to know that I'm doing good work and I'm helping people, and that for me is super fulfilling because when I was in any other type of business I have, from real estate to construction and stuff, I never got the sense of what I doing mattered or it meant anything to people.
It's beyond
and so
anything.
for me, that's my first thing that I'm doing. But then from that, I get up and I exercise because it gives me clarity. It makes me physically strong, and then if I can endure physical pain, then I can surely endure whatever pain that the opinion one's bringing to my table, my desk, my email, my inbox. It just doesn't even faze me. So those are the things that I do. I work with great people like yourself. I choose my clients now. I fire clients all the time. I don't work with people I don't like, and that makes it not like work for me. And then I associate with the people. I'm very intentional about who I associate with and I spend my time with. So again, I don't have any Debbie Downers in my life. I don't have anybody tell me about anything that I can watch on the news. And I'm really, I'm very comfortable telling anyone not to send me this type of message, that type of message, this type of email. I'm just anything what I find to be inappropriate or gets into my headspace because before I don't work after certain hours. I don't want people calling me after certain hours. I don't take phone calls after certain hours. So I really don't. And I'm anyone that's coming into my world, I tell them that. I say, hey, look, I just don't take these. I shut off my mind from consuming because it's very easy to let your inbox guide your day, right? And so now they're running your life instead of you running your life. And so for me, I don't let that run my life. So I have my plan for what I want to do for the day, and I get that done before I let other people put me on their calendars.
Absolutely. And also protecting your energy, your
I
mind.
protect my energy, I protect my mind.
Because you definitely need to be mindful of what comes to your environment.
And one of the things that I've said to people nowadays, and I say this to everyone, friends, family, because obviously as you become more popular, people want to talk to you. And I say to them, listen, it's not that I don't want to help or support you, but that same hour that I'm spending with you, I can make one video that impacts tens of thousands of people. And so I'm very mindful of that. And for me, you're actually taken away from those people. And so you're the one that's selfish, not me.
Absolutely.
That's the way I see it.
And it's not about,
It's just me explaining them to get them to understand.
So
It's not,
understand.
because it's not for me. I already know, I'm comfortable in that. I'm just telling one of the things that I say to people is that, because we went to high school together, we went to, you're my neighbor, this and that. And I said, look, it's not that I don't want to give you time. And I said, but at this point, right, because I have such an impact and such an influence, you're taking time away from all these other people that really, truly are going to value and respect what we're doing to spend time with you on stuff that I've already, that's in the universe already. I mean, all the stuff that you're talking about is already free. It's publicly available. There's no reason for you to come to me to get that information when it's available publicly. So I just, I really think like here being with you is intentional, by choice. For me, it's just one of those things that I'm very confident in saying, and I live it.
I want to congratulate you for everything that you have accomplished and everything that is coming. I know there's a lot more, and I think we're going to be doing more of this together.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to be probably collaborating somehow.
Can I pitch my new product?
Of course.
Okay, all right. Let me pitch my new product. So, one of the things that we're doing now that we're literally, it's not been advertised, but because I'm on your podcast and it's a construction, we've now grown to the point where we've trained thousands, we've coached hundreds, we're mentoring dozens of businesses, and we decided, because people start asking us for business development support, we've now created a new company called Alchemy Gov, where we're providing business development support to construction companies who want to get into the federal marketplace. And what we do is we become an extension of you. So imagine there's a shortage of great business development people out there. I'm sure you know this and aware of it. And good business development people can go up to $200,000 a year, right? Because again, they're bringing in millions of dollars into sales for your business. What I've done is we've taken our best and brightest students that we've trained, and they've had to prove themselves. So you're not getting people who have never proven themselves. They have to have won contracts on their own. These are all people that were trained underneath me, mentored by me, coached by me. And we're taking those students, and they built up our business development team that we're now basically lending them to small businesses. And so that way you don't have to essentially trial by fire, figure out whether or not this guy is good after 6 months and then hire on someone that you can't fire because of HR and all these other reasons. We've essentially taken that out, and we're allowing you to outsource that to us. And if you give us an email address, we're actually doing all the outreach on your behalf. So again, even after 6 months, for whatever reason you can't pay us anymore, we've already built up that pipeline for you. So you're always going to get value out of whatever you paid us for, because we're making phone calls on your behalf. We're reaching out to government on your behalf, sub-agencies. Everything that we're sending is your information, your literature. We're just doing the actual heavy lifting. For those companies, for your company or whoever's company who hires.
And what's the size company that you aim for?
Yeah, so for us, we prefer companies that actually have a team that can execute and deliver. So again, we're looking for companies that I would say $5 million and up, because typically a company that's in the $1 million or $2 million range, it probably doesn't make financial sense, because obviously there is a fee, right? There's a minimum fee for us to do this, because we got to pay staff and teams to support it. But the way that we look at this is we're half of the cost of a full-time BD person, and then we take the rest of our money on as a success fee. So again, we are participating. We've got skin in the game, but we need you to have some skin in the game as well.
So let me break it down, because let's say it's me.
Yep.
So you have, which is a great idea. So you have a group of people that have been mentored by you, and they are doing the BD. Is it up to what point? Because you said you need to have a team that can execute. Well, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is that, one of the things that you and I have learned, right, when we're out there soliciting the government, we can't determine the size project they're going to give us or award us. We don't make that determination. So again, if you don't have the capacity, if I'm out and I'm reaching out to, say, NAVFAC, because that's one of my clients, NAVFAC, and NAVFAC gives us a $40,000 contract, sure, everyone could do that. But if NAVFAC then, which one of my clients, they went from $40,000 to $5 million, everyone can't do $5 million. So what we're looking for is people that, again, if your team, if you don't have it particularly, you've got to be aligned with someone who has that ability, because obviously for it to make sense for any of us, we have to do projects that are in excess of $1 million. And I mean, not that we're going to start there, but we have to be able to at least get there to start doing $1 million projects.
But these companies that you're helping, do they need to be an 8A, or it doesn't matter?
No, we actually do have an 8A company that's 3 years in a program that has not had any success. So we don't care about certifications, because again, I'm such a high profile individual now. We have partner companies all across the country that we can use to leverage their 8As, leverage their help zone, leverage their certs, or leverage tribal organizations to help bring you in as a subcontractor. So it doesn't matter. Your certs are irrelevant.
And then when you say these companies, so you do the business development,
yes,
and then the proposal and all that stuff.
So those are things that we need you to have, right? Okay. I mean, again, even if you don't have it, we can outsource it, but it's not part of it. We're literally strictly just doing the business development and the capture management.
Capability statement,
we'll put that together. Yeah, so
you would require the company's team to be at the capability briefing?
We won't require it, but we definitely recommend it, because as you know, the government wants to see the founders, and they want to see partners, and they want to see the people that are going to be actually they're underwriting this to you, so obviously they like to see you. So we highly encourage you to be at the briefings, but it's not required, no.
And then you charge based on?
So we charge based on, for example, more of the territory, right? And so we look at the number of NAICS codes we're covering and the territory. So because, again, if you look at, say, 3 NAICS codes, 4 states, right, that's a huge territory. If you look at 6 NAICS codes in 8 states, that's a much bigger expanded reach. And so we're probably gonna have to assign multiple people to handle that, because as you can imagine, that's a lot of agencies. That's a lot of ground to cover. So again, we really look at the area that you want to cover and the amount of codes that you want to cover. And again, if you look at construction, I mean, I don't care if it's because if it's all in a general, that's fine. So I don't care if it's, but if you are a roofing company and you say, well, I can do roofing all over the country, that's different than a roofing guy who wants to stay in the Southeast United States.
Right, so probably it's okay to start with one next code and one location, but the
One
question
state.
is,
We say states.
or state. But let's say, how do you charge? Is it a fee?
No,
Is it
it's a retainage.
percentage?
No. We again, there's a minimum participation retainage fee, because we're not working off. I mean, anyone would let me do it for a percentage of sales. I don't need to do a program for that. Everybody says they'll do that, right? They don't. The problem is that what I found is that if you're not writing a check, right, you're not motivated. You're not going to be as responsive. If I say, hey, send me your financials, send me this, the government's asking for this, there's no incentive for you to give me the information in a timely manner, which we know the government will give us a week or 2 weeks, and we have to turn around this kind of information. So we need you to have skin in the game as well. So there's a minimum retainer. I can tell you this, the minimum retainer starts at $4,000, and then it goes up from there.
Awesome.
And then there's a success fee for us actually winning. So we've found that even without advertising, people are coming on board really quickly, because you got to hire business. If you want to grow in the federal arena, you have to hire a business development person, and you have to have a proposal manager. Those are the two things that are must. They're not optional. They are must. So again, if you don't have those things and you have to go out and try to find it trial by fire, well, good luck. And I wish everyone the best, because and I know that those things are really hard to find, and those people that are key to your organization growing and scaling. Absolutely. And without them, you're done.
Absolutely. I agree. I am very happy that you're here.
Thank you.
I'm very happy of the progress that you've made.
Thank you.
I'm very happy of the number of people that you're helping.
Thank you.
And I really, really, really wish you a lot more success, because I know as you grow, other people grow.
Right, absolutely. And that's what we want to do.
And I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. And I'm happy for your success. I'm happy for everything you're doing. I love bragging about you. I love that you're a woman. I love that you're a Latinx. I love that you bring that flavor. I love that I appreciate that, because people like to see sincerity, like to see, realness. And like I told you offline, I believe it's our obligation to show people that we can do this, we can achieve at the highest levels and still have a good time. And I think that's important, because I don't think people get a chance to see that enough.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to look for a story or an excuse not to do things. But when we're out there, we eliminate that. And we know, I came from Dominican Republic, and I started my business in the garage. So being a single mom.
That's right.
It can be done.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening to Thriving in Construction, the podcast, and listening to my friend, Eric Coffie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.